No second chances, no support, and nowhere to go but the finish line. Day and night, non-stop, racing the clock as much as they race themselves, across 4 continents and countless challenges. The ultimate prize is simply surviving. The journey, the tears, and the triumphs. Welcome to Wild Races. Switzerland now welcomes our adventurers to commence their journey through one of the most famous vistas on Earth.
It's simply stunning, I have to say. Everywhere you look is just magnificent, from the glaciers, the snow. These mountains have been standing there and people have been tramping on these paths for years, and we're just one of them to experience just this little slice of Switzerland and just be humbled with the greatness of nature.
With adventure racing, people that haven't tried it, they really don't understand. You tell your friends at home that I'm going to Switzerland for a race, it's 4 days, you know, we're running up and down in the mountains and we're doing some bicycling and running and paddling. But if you haven't tried it, it's really hard to really understand. Most people, they just hear, oh, you're gonna be out for 4 days, and they think you're kind of stupid. So I don't know, if you haven't tried it, I think it's really hard to understand what it means to actually finish a race like this.
It's a great adventure. You never know before a race what's going to happen, how you're going to react, if you're going to finish. I think for me that's the challenge, to see how far you can push it, test your limits and explore a bit more about yourself. You always find out more things during these races.
After a race like this, you know, you appreciate everything because you have been out there for 4 days with no sleep and you have eaten, you know, whatever, and I think that's a big thing, and you do it with friends as well. It's a team effort, and that's really a good reason for doing adventure racing, I guess.
I think adventure racing for me is, you know, I certainly see it as a lifestyle. You know, it's not something you just do as a hobby per se. You know, you've really got to live it, and I'm happy to share it with friends, you know, who also share that same idea.
I just think it's surreal. It takes me to a place that I just don't get in normal life. Throw away normal life and you're just relying on yourself and, most importantly, your teammates. The team is just so much more than the parts, and with the team you just can achieve so much more than what you yourself can do. The most amazing highs. We open up to each other. There's nothing hidden in an adventure race. You know your teammates through and through. You become great friends. That just gives me this amazing buzz that makes me come back for more.
We've come into this realizing that yes, it's not going to be easy, you know, and yeah, the mountains are there as part of the challenge, as part of the journey, you know, and I'm more than happy to take it on.
18,000 meters up and down, that's gonna hurt in the legs, we know that. We get to see a great environment and great views and fantastic scenery.
It's very much up to the competition. I mean, if I wouldn't like to be competing, I could probably go hiking in the same area and see the same views. But I love to race, but I don't think I have the motivation to race indoor, for example. For me, it has to be, at least for racing such a long time, it has to be a great environment. And to get new experiences. I mean, we do race a few big races each year, and we get to see new interesting parts of the world. There are some really good teams here, and some local teams that are very good in this terrain. So we hope to give them a good race. We'll see if we are fast enough.
Crossing the finish line as a team, if you have done a great race, it's a great feeling.
I love it. I mean, I think it's what I was born to do. I've had a lifetime of sport and sort of building up your skills, mountain biking, trekking, kayaking, and this just brings it all together. It brings your personality, it brings your skill set, it brings your determination, and it puts you out of your comfort zone, and it's different from daily life, you know, and it's just, yeah, it's pretty cool.
I must admit, you know, it is not called adventure racing for nothing. You have a fantastic adventure. And if you've got a team that gels and has a great time, doesn't matter whether you come first or last, if you've had a gel team that has worked well together and achieved your goals and crossed the finish line, you've come away with memories that'll last you forever. You get to do fantastic things in fantastic countries, or the best parts of fantastic countries. So.
But like, you could come here as a tourist and you'd probably sit here and do a couple of adventures, but you come here and adventurate and you go to places that no other people get to go. So that's pretty special.
You have to be really prepared physically. You have to train uphill and downhill, but you got to have your head with you. You have to be mentally prepared, otherwise you can't make it, I think. We're here to go fast and compete. All the team members got to have the same thinking and the same goal, and I think we have that.
This racing in the Alps for us is a bit different from preparing for a race with less altitude difference. Regular training back home is not really enough to prepare for this race. So all of us have been looking for bigger and bigger hills. I don't think there's any team that goes as fast as they can all the way. The good teams go very fast for the first day, maybe, and then they try to maintain a decent speed to save some extra speed for last day if they have to. It's always a trade-off, all the time. How fast dare to go and still be able to go all the way? How much food do we need to carry? We always want to carry more, but this race is just straight up and then straight down. Each kilo you have in your backpack is going to slow you down. So it's lots and lots of decisions all the time.
It also has to do with experience. You need to do some races to know how the body will react, and mentally as well. Our team has done a lot of races, so we know each other pretty good, and that's an advantage for us.
Well, for us it's been mostly, I think, preparing in a different way. For this race we've prepared with more running in the hills at home.
I really don't see it as suffering. Of course, you know, it's gonna hurt. You know, your legs gonna scream at you to stop and so forth. But I think it's a challenge. You know, you start. You know that you have a finish. You have to come through all the challenges throughout the race with the whole team. One thing that I have noticed, some of the tracks are really long. You will be out for like 15 or 20 hours, but time flies when you adventure race. It's suddenly I've walked for another hour, and that's another hour. So I don't know. It's I don't see it as suffering, but it's going to be hard, of course, really hard sometimes.
I mean, physically you suffer, but mostly afterwards actually. During the race you're so into it, and you have the team and you chat to keep each other awake, and you always have things to do. Especially I'm one of the navigators, so you always have the map. There's a lot of decisions all the time, keeping track of where you are and where to go. That keeps my mind away from the physical pain.
Racing in another country is a different ballgame. You're not in your backyard. You're not comfortable with the hills. You're not comfortable with the map. So, yeah, just coming a bit earlier, getting a bit of time to have a look around really helps get a feel for what you're going to be in for. But I don't think we've seen it yet. I think there's still more hiding behind that hill there. We think that's a big hill, but I'm sure there's more and more behind, and that's really exciting. That's great. The key is just to prepare for the worst and hope for the best. Yeah, you've got to be prepared for all conditions. So it may be 30 degrees, it might be 5 degrees, it might be snowing, it might be sweltering, and you just have to be prepared for all those conditions. Unlike other races, we were sent a little diagram of the course before we left home, so knowing exactly how many legs we had and what they were going to be sort of meant you could bring additional warm clothing rather than just taking a punt thinking, we don't know what we're going to get, so we just need to take everything.
We still don't know the course, we just know the legs and the relative distances, and you know, we still don't know where we're going.
A lot of it's mental. I mean, we've got the endurance, we've got the training, it's just attitude, so hopefully we can give it a punt this time, see how we go. But yeah, we've got to be realistic. We're not super athletes and we're not professional athletes, so we'll do our best. We are getting a bit old. But yeah, we'll get out there and give it a punt, see how we go.
We've looked at the course profile, plenty of hills, and we're just thinking, did we walk up our apartment stairs just that enough times or not?
Obviously, there's not many big hills in Singapore, but there's plenty of big buildings.
Basically, our building is higher than the highest natural point in Singapore by at least 50 metres. So we've done some stair training. It's not quite the steadfast, monstrous Jungfrau and all the other surrounding mountains that they have around there. A lot of contour lines very close together and sort of wall-like mountains.
Physically, we know we're not the strongest team compared to some of the European teams who live and train in mountains just like these. You know, we know that in order to preserve ourselves physically, we're going to have to pretty much get our navigation spot on. It's not going to be all smooth sailing. You know, there will be challenges, not only from the course unto us, but also amongst team members. There might be conflict. There might be a few rough spots where we have to deal with and adapt, and overcome together. And I really like to see us finish, as even a firmer and closer friends than when we started.
Training will get us this far, and then mental will get us this far, and then teamwork will have to take us all the way to the finish line.
Following on from their acclimatisation, teams now gather at Race HQ for their all-important briefing.
When you're feeling strong and positive, you try to remember to share that with your team as much as possible all the time. But if on the other hand, having a bad period and you're feeling weak or you think this is pretty boring, you have to keep that to yourself. It's super important. If you're not motivated by yourself, you have to keep quiet about that. If you start complaining, you're going to make the others suffer as well.
But the key factor is to work as a team. If you have a great teamwork, then I think you will succeed.
There are going to be 6 sections. They'll start off with a monster trek in the Jungfrau area around the Eiger North Wall. They'll do 5,500 meters elevation up, 6,500 down before they actually reach the start of the first paddle. That's going to be a 25k paddle. After that, they'll do a quick hike up the local Interlaken mountain, come down and continue on a big bike loop. Another paddle, 27k, before they have a mandatory 4-hour stop where we can get them ready and make sure that they'll be safe on the last 2 big legs. They'll keep biking from there up the Simmental. They're going to do rafting during this leg, and then they'll cross over a big pass and end up in Adelboden, where they'll start their hike back to the finish.
Maps in hand, it's down to crucial route planning.
The scale's very small, so
it's all right now in the daylight, in the middle of the night when your eyesight's not the best.
So the detail's very small, and we don't have a key to the detail of what some of the trails are. So we'll find that out.
We've only really gone over the first 2 legs. The first trek's a bit of a mammoth one, so it'll just be a matter of keeping on top of it and making sure that you know where you are all the time, so that if you do make a little boo-boo, it's not too far back to backtrack or anything like that. It always looks a bit more, like on the map, a bit more nerve-wracking, but once you're out there, definitely you're going to be a lot more mentally draining for the navigator, put it that way.
I'm pretty pleased with the name of the first leg, the Jungfrau Monster Trek. I really like he did this last year as well, making small quotes for each section, and I think the first one says the most: Switzerland is a small, steep country, much more up and down than sideways.
The race is going to be extremely tough, I think. The trekking sections are really a challenge, and while the bikes too and the paddling, But the trekking sections is going to be the key factor in this race, I think.
Lots of problems with our feet last year here on the last trek, so I hope I don't will have that kind of problem this year, because I'm not so fast when I run down, when I have blisters on the feet. So I'm a little bit worried for that.
And if you don't take care of the feet, you will be even slower later in the competition. So if you have a problem with the feet, you need to take care of them early in the race. The trekking sections are huge. And I don't think anyone who competes in this race will be comfortable with the feet and legs. I think everybody will be suffering a lot.
We're out of our comfort zone in many ways, more ways than one. The weather, the terrain, just the length of the race, the activities we have to do. It's going to stretch us all. Left, right and centre.
Yeah, it should be a bit of fun. It's a bit daunting, but on the other hand, you know, this is what we've prepared for and this is what we want to do, so game time.
Love my teammates, you know, they're my family, but yeah, everything can always be improved on. So when we're tired and just feeling down, we're going to make it an effort to communicate it to the rest of our team.
And that's the thing, man. We really got to count on each other, especially when we are not 100%. That's all part of the race. That's all part of the fun, the challenge.
Lean on me when you're not strong.
And I'll be your friend. He sings inside.
We had a good idea that, you know, it would be a lot of vertical, up and down. Just having a look at the actual map, you know, just confirms, that it's going to be a challenge just to do some of those hills. We are trying to pick the route which, well, in summary, the path of least resistance.
The first trekking section and the last two sections, that's going to be the main part of this race. That's where we have to have the mental focus to go through there. The kayaking and the first bike section feels pretty simple compared to the others. So we will do the most of the navigation, but if we are really tired, the other two can also take them up. That's a good thing. And especially when the last two legs are probably the longest ones, you need to be mentally prepared for that. Because it can feel like you're almost finished when you reach the start of the fifth leg. You've only got two legs left, but they are half of the race. So you need to be really mentally prepared for the struggle here. The important thing is to keep your spirit high and to stay together and work as a team. And if you don't work as a team here, you're gonna have a really hard time.
If teams race out and go too fast during the first 24 hours, they're gonna be wrecked and not have a good time during the last 2 to 3 days.
The course comprises trekking, mountain biking, kayaking and rafting, totalling over 400 non-stop kilometres with no support. As the clock counts down, teams now start the incredibly nervous journey to the start.
Now we really want to start. We have waited enough now.
Just a bundle of nerves, you can tell from the laughter.
My head's a bit frozen, so yeah, no thoughts, blank. Figure my thought is just follow and keep up, basically.
No, yeah, I just tell myself one step at a time.
4.5 days of loving each other. It's amazing how you can basically see where we're going later today, and then tomorrow and day after just from here. And it's a lot of
vertical travelling, much less so than horizontal.
We don't talk so much before starting. Sometimes we don't talk so much during the race either, but if you want to stay awake, we can sing and talk. It used to be quite common that we start quite hard and then we go slower.
It's so much focus the last day before the race, and now 2 hours before the start, you cannot do much more. Just hope that you're well prepared. So I would say part of the race tactic for us, if you're feeling low after the race, we try to be very, very open and talk through everything. But during the race, it's not that much point trying to open up that kind of thing. I think we know each other so well, so we pretty much know it anyway. Often, if someone needs help, they tell that. And we have that way to work in the team. We all try to be that open.
And then it's go time. Next week, teams head out on one of the longest first legs in adventure racing and face up to the elements like never before. This alpine environment can be as cruel as it is kind. Anything is possible.
That's our plan. Just keep going. So we'll see what happens.